Buongiorno fellas, and welcome back to another video. Today I thought I was going to do DeSantis versus Biden, and yeah, that is the plan. A big difference between DeSantis and Biden. To start with, you have age. Biden will be 82 if he tries to seek re-election in 2024. DeSantis was, I believe, 40 when he decided to run for governor, and currently either 42 or 43, anyway he's much younger. But when you put in DeSantis instead of Trump, a big difference is that the South as a whole is going to be a bit more red. Parts of the Southwest will also be redder because of DeSantis being a bit stronger in the suburbs. This is actually a broad representation of how I believe DeSantis will do compared to Trump. Not accurately, but this is the comparison of the elections of 2000 and 2004. Most of the South is getting more Republican, as is much of the Northeast, and I believe that having DeSantis on the ticket would also have a similar effect. And there are some states, on the other hand, like Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, Mississippi, that maybe would be more Republican under Trump. Yeah, West Virginia also belongs to that category. But by and large, the swing states are going to be a bit more favorable. So DeSantis is young, he has a good record as a governor, and he will have no problem winning the reliably Republican states, including Alaska, which I believe is to count as reliably Republican in this scenario. Ohio is a state that has been won by 8 points by Trump. And that is a likely margin, but like Virginia in 2000 and 2004, it can be counted as a safe state. So I think that it would be going to DeSantis regardless. And also he would win Texas likely and Florida likely. Now these are two states that could both have been lean with Trump as the nominee. In Texas because of suburban trends not favoring him, and in Florida because DeSantis is the governor and very popular in Florida. I'm only saying that both states could have been less than 5 with Trump, but I think they will be more than 5 margins with DeSantis. Also, Biden is, in spite of his age, going to have some safe states. And yeah, even though you could always make the argument that some of these states will be less than 10, we can do that later in the video. I think Maine at large would be less than 10, but more than 5. I think DeSantis would not win Colorado. It would be a likely Democratic state. And I believe that Minnesota would be lean Democratic. Same thing with New Mexico. So in other words, I believe he would do better in Minnesota and New Mexico. I think that turnout-wise, Minnesota in 2020 was surprisingly strong for Biden. I mean, he improved massively compared with Clinton in 2016, but that was mostly due to low Democratic turnout in 2016, because Clinton actually did not have the same disadvantage when it came to small city mayors endorsing Trump. I mean, Democratic mayors of small northern Minnesota cities endorsing Trump. So that was a big factor. But even though DeSantis is a bit stronger suburban-wise, I think that he'll not win Nebraska second. It just went to Biden by too big of a margin, and as you see now, it's quite equal. So let us go on to the state of North Carolina. I think that it would go to DeSantis. It is a state with massive population trends, growing minority population, but Trump has been able to edge it out twice. Same with Romney in 2012. And I think that DeSantis would be able to do so as well, especially with Biden having already a massive foreign policy and military disaster on his record in Afghanistan. So I think that yes, North Carolina would stay Republican, and the neighboring state of Virginia would stay Democratic, but by a surprisingly small margin. I think it would be less than 5 probably. And here I would like to come back to what I said about Virginia. It is a southern state. DeSantis is doing better in the south. Biden has already a disaster on his heels. And even though Trump lost it by about 10 points to Biden, In the US House of Representatives, the Democrats won the raw vote by less than 5. And in 2016 it was basically tied, while in 2014 the Republicans won that vote massively, even as they lost the Senate race. So I think with a bit faulty Democrat and a quite generic but quite strong generic Republican in DeSantis, I think that it could be less than 5 points in Virginia. Especially thinking that DeSantis is a veteran from Iraq, and that is only a very good thing among most Virginians. But going on to the state of Iowa, it is a state that could swing a bit more. It has swung massively before because of the trade issue and the economic of farmers. I think DeSantis would carry it. If you go to the state of Arizona, this one is a very difficult one. It has been trending away from Republicans, and this year Democrat Kirsten Sinema would be seeking re-election for her to her Senate seat, and because of that, I think the Democrats would show up in big numbers, but again there would be a lot of ticket splitting, because many moderate Republicans would vote for Sinema. I think DeSantis could still narrowly hold the state, even though Biden, being a friend of John McCain, DeSantis have never insulted John McCain in the same way. But this is absolutely a state that could go either way. When it comes down to the Rust Belt, I know that Biden has a strong showing in the state of Pennsylvania, his birth state, and Michigan. I think in Michigan Biden would actually win, and the big reason is because the Democrat Debbie Stabenow is probably going to seek re-election, and she will drive up the Democratic turnout. Of course, she is going to be old too, and she should retire, absolutely. But with her on the ticket, I think Biden will be aided to win the state again. But the same thing will not be true in Wisconsin. Even though you have Tammy Baldwin going to seek re-election, we have seen before that Wisconsin is a state where Republicans are doing quite well on the presidential level and the gubernatorial level, even as they lost the Senate race by 11 points in 2018. I don't think that it really says a lot, and by this point I believe that DeSantis would have been so popular in Wisconsin and the state would have trended so much to the Republicans that it is really a state you can expect to go to him. New Hampshire is another state that is very difficult, so I think I'm going to skip it and go straight to Georgia. Again, DeSantis' popularity in the south, his suburban strength. This is a state that is trending very rapidly towards the Democrats. So why do I think that DeSantis is set to win it? Well, if you go back to 2020, Trump did lose it off the bat, but the Senate candidate David Perdue, who I believe was a okay but not very strong Senate candidate, he actually won at the first ballot, not on the runoff, but he got 49.7% to John Ossoff's 47.9 or something. So he practically took it at that point, and I can tell you that the turnout against DeSantis is not going to be the same as it is against Trump in the Atlanta metro area. Because, to be honest, out of the 81 million people who voted for Biden, most of those votes were against Trump. Yes, most of them would have voted for the Democrat anyway, but they voted more against Trump, and being a responsible southern governor is only an advantage in areas like this. Same thing in Nevada. I know that it has not been won by other Republicans either since 2004, and Trump came much closer than McCain and Romney, but I still think that it is a state that is trending, and therefore it goes to DeSantis. I forgot to mention that he would of course win the 2nd district of Maine, likely. New Hampshire again. I believe that by this point Chris Sununu is going to be the senator from New Hampshire. There is not going to be a Senate election in New Hampshire that year, it will be a gubernatorial election. But really Biden won it by a surprisingly big margin, 6 or 7 points. I think that he could win it, even though it would narrow down a bit. Yeah. And the last state is the state of Pennsylvania. I believe that DeSantis would win the state and win the presidency. Reasoning for that is Even as Biden carried the state in 2020, both sides set records nearly for the amount of raw votes. And I cannot really imagine the Democrats repeating that turnout operation. And why would Republicans do that? It is not necessarily only about turnout. If DeSantis manages to match Trump's numbers in the western parts of the state, that's all he needs. He holds his ground in western Pennsylvania and improves in eastern Pennsylvania, where I guess he would improve, considering the different national environment from 2020. And I think that he could win the state by more than a point. In a good scenario, even more than 2 points. But this is, regardless, my final... Well, okay, it's not my final prediction. I don't think that Biden is necessarily going to be the candidate in 2024, but this is my current prediction of DeSantis versus Biden 2024. It is a DeSantis victory. It would probably be a bigger victory if it was not against an incumbent president, but rather against a bad candidate like Harris, and it could be a smaller victory if it was against a better Democratic candidate. I can't really think of one, but I'm sure they will appear in time. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. Please like and please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.